Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today inshallah I'll be showing you how to build a computer. Of course this computer will be from scratch, but it will not be in a case, just so that you guys can see how a computer actually works. And then inshallah I'll put it in the case. Okay, so let's just go over the parts real quick. The essential parts for a computer is usually a motherboard, which is the mother of the entire computer, because it brings everything together. You have a CPU fan. I'm gonna focus on the CPU. And then the hard drives, power supply, you have the RAM, and the graphics card. Now things are a little messy, but inshallah I'll explain each and every part in detail. So basically the CPU is what processes everything in the computer. Where everything in the computer that you see on the TV, everything is 0110s. But from those 0110s, this CPU right here calculates multiplication, division, and so on. Or basically, from those 011s, the computer pulls out a couple of numbers which needs to be calculated by this processor. Now the hard drive holds information, which is like the basement of the house. So if it was, for example, in a mansion, actually in a regular house, then the hard drive would be the basement of the house where you can store all your stuff in for later use. And the CPU would be like a butler in your house, which does all your work for you. Over here you have a RAM, and the RAM is like a closet all the way in the upper part of the house. Usually RAM is just the same as the hard drive except much smaller, and it is right next to the CPU, which the CPU uses so it can put information on the side, so it can use it pretty quickly. Random access memory, which it does not have any memory whatsoever when the computer shuts off. When it's turned on, the CPU uses this RAM in order to set information on the side for later use. So as for example, all your programs that are running on the side would be running inside the RAM, so it would be much faster to access and process. Okay, so as I was saying, let's just bring some type of paper so we can explain this house right here. Basically, here's a house. My drawing isn't the best drawing out there, but inshallah, you guys can bear with me. Okay, so here's the house, and here is the stairs. Here's your closet. So this right here is the closet, which is the RAM. And over here is the basement, which is the hard drive. And here's your butler, which is the CPU who does everything for you. So basically, the CPU does everything. So when it needs to work with something, it has to go all the way. If the all your stuff is in the basement, for example, it needs the lamp to be set up all the way at top. So basically, the CPU, which is the butler right here, it's a small guy. He has to go all the way down, get that lamp for you, all the way up, and then sets it up for you. That's one of the things that it has to do because another program wants it to do so. Now for the RAM, is like the lamp, which is right here, is inside the closet, which is very easy for the CPU to access because it does not have to go all the way down to the basement to get that lamp, but it can just access it from the closet. And the faster the CPU is, basically the faster it can go up and down with the hard drive in the closet and process information or set stuff up in the house, work around the house. So basically that's the faster the CPU. The bigger the closet is, you have a bigger the closet, it means bigger RAM, which is you can set more stuff up over here, which can be faster for the butler, which is the CPU, to access information. And lastly, for the basement, the bigger the basement, which means the bigger the hard drive. So anyways, we got that taken care of. So let's just start. So in a motherboard, this motherboard right here, every computer usually contains, because for the minimum amount of amount that the computer needs to work on, basically the minimum amount of parts that the needs to be connected together in order to work, would be a CPU, a motherboard, one hard drive, a power supply, RAM, and a graphics card. All these components need to be connected to the motherboard in order to work. Like that's the minimum. You can deal without a CD drive, a floppy drive. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I can just connect all these parts together with a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse, and the computer will just work fine. Actually, as you can see over here, I don't even have a CD drive because I kind of pulled it out. Of course, we're gonna need that for installation, which inshallah I'll pull one up here. And this is a CD drive, a DVD drive actually, which reads dual layer DVD discs, burns DVDs, CD read and write, all that stuff. We'll get to that later on, inshallah. So first of all, let us just talk about the CPU socket, which goes right here. Usually every motherboard has this right here, which is like a couple of pins or a couple of places where the pins go in. Well, first of all, we want to clean this place up. Well, let's just get a tissue real quick. Okay, so basically all this stuff that you see right here is some type of heat thermal paste, which is very necessary for the CPU, necessary to be applied to the CPU, because without thermal paste, now we got a couple of thermal paste in here. Let's which is very necessary for the CPU to basically